Hello everybody, Mark aka the Nerdy Punk back again today for a new video. This evening I'm getting ready to go see Killers of the Flower Moon, the newest film from Martin Scorsese. Always super excited to see a Scorsese movie, especially in the theaters, and I'm really pumped for this movie. So I'm going to a Thursday night early showing. I got to go to a football game tomorrow night. I got some things. I'm hanging out with some friends this weekend. So, my weekend's kind of busy. So I went ahead and scheduled this before the weekend so that way I could get this movie seen and then get a review out for you guys because it's my number one most anticipated for the rest of the year. So I'm really excited for this. I've heard really good things. Like I said, I think it's got a 94% currently on Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of Oscar buzz, of course. Some pretty interesting Oscar news with Lily Gladstone choosing to compete for the Best Actress Oscar as opposed to Supporting Actress. So I am really looking forward to her performance. Heard nothing but amazing things and excited to see what I think about it. So Leonardo DiCaprio, of course, in this as well. Really interesting subject matter. It's going to be a bit of a marathon, 3 hours and 30 some minutes. So it'll probably be relatively late when I get home tonight. We'll see how that affects me tomorrow. But nonetheless, we'll see how pacing goes with this. I was interested to hear Martin Scorsese say that Ari Aster was one of his inspirations for the pacing of this movie in particular. So I watched Midsommar last night for the first time in several years, and as kind of a little bit of a prep work here for Killers of the Flower Moon. So, it's fresh in my brain. I'm interested to see if I pick up on any of that, but we shall see. Without further ado, I'm going to head over to the theater and see Killers of the Flower Moon. I will be back in just a couple seconds for you guys, a few hours for me to give you my thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon. Alright guys, just got out of the theater from seeing Killers of the Flower Moon, and it was definitely a marathon, that's for sure. You feel that 3.5 hours, definitely. I think it detracted a little bit from the film, but I think most of it was necessary, so there's not a lot that I think Scorsese could have cut out of this. It is phenomenally directed. I mean, Martin Scorsese, I don't need to say this because everybody knows it, but he is a master at this art form. You could tell, you were in the hands of a master, of a genius. So I think it was really well directed. The story is compelling. It is depressing. It is infuriating. And it is told so well. I really, really love the way Scorsese went about telling this story, especially when it came to dealing with the Osage culture itself and how he incorporated the Osage language into the film without spelling it out for you. So sometimes that the characters would be speaking in the Osage language, sometimes they would translate it at the bottom for you, sometimes they wouldn't, and I really liked that choice because it really made the performances that much more important, which leads me to the next point. Performances are overall really good. I will say Lily Gladstone is the standout for me. I think she delivers the best performance out of the bunch, and I am early on pushing for her for the Oscar. We'll see what I think when I see Poor Things later on in December with Emma Stone. I've heard amazing things about that performance. So we'll see how that kind of stacks up to that. I think that's going to be the race if we're looking forward to the Oscars. That being said, she's relatively subtle in most of the movie, and I think that works to its advantage. There are some kind of Oscar scenes in the movie, if you will, very emotional scenes with a lot of heavy subject matter, but for the most part, her character is very reserved, and because of that, you have the opportunity to kind of I think Scorsese kind of described it like this, reading her face. Her facial expressions say it all. I mean, in the movie, she is delivering one of the best subtle performances I've ever seen. So, it's not a showy performance, but it's really good. DiCaprio, I thought, was great as well. his character is, kind of tough to deal with because it's not really spelled out. You can tell he's not kind of quite all there mentally, when it comes to his intelligence and ability to read situations. And so it kind of creates a interesting situation for DiCaprio and the type of performance that he gives. He's got to do some kind of odd things in the film. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's a very complicated character, to say the least. And I thought DiCaprio performed it really well, like 95 to 90% of the time. I thought it was really good. That math doesn't make sense, but it's too late for me to do math right now. I am I'm about to hit the hay, shall we say. Nonetheless, so I thought DiCaprio was great. De Niro, I'm fine if he gets nominated. I don't think this is an Oscar-worthy performance from De Niro. Part of that is due to the character. I don't think there's a lot behind this character in terms of depth. I would have liked a little bit more from this character in particular that De Niro plays. It feels too cookie cutter, if you will. And I'm not going to go into details for sake of spoilers, but it feels like I've seen this character many times before in movies, and I would have liked something a little bit different. Nonetheless, I think he still executed it really well. That's my overall thoughts on the movie. There's some elements that kind of drag it back a little bit for me. Do I think this is the best movie of the year? No. And I was kind of hoping it would be, but it was still a really good movie. And they told a really important story. Like, you do not see movies like this with the subject matter like this very often. I mean, it's a very dialogue-heavy drama that's 3.5 hours long. That's already going to turn a lot of people off. And then you got the subject matter. It's a very important story that needs to be told. And, I teach history for a living. I didn't know that this exact thing happened. Like, I obviously knew of the absolute abysmal history of, European colonization and the effect that had on the native population of the United States. I mean, every single American knows that story to some extent. I didn't know that this type of thing happened, and it's very reminiscent of things like the Tulsa Massacre that we learned about. A lot of white Americans learned about in 2020, and Black Americans knew about it long before. But it's another one of these events that's just horrific in American history that we need to reckon with, and still is very important to us as a society. So I think it's a very important story, and I'm really glad that somebody like Scorsese is willing to tell it. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video. My grade on Killers of the Flower Moon is currently a 4 out of 5. A really solid movie from Martin Scorsese with an important story to tell. Definitely recommend getting out and watching this movie if you can this weekend. I'd love to see those box office numbers get up for this one in particular, just because I think there's a lot going against it with the length and the dialogue nature of the film. But I think it's a really important film to see, and I really want more people to see films like this, to see them do well. So if you can get out to a theater, go see this movie. It's a great one. You're gonna enjoy your 3.5 hours. With that being said, like I said, have an amazing night, guys. Have an amazing weekend. I'm going to be really busy this weekend, so I don't see a chance of doing any videos this weekend, but there will be some more stuff coming along the pipeline. Halloween is right around the corner, so fun horror stuff coming up. So have a great night. See you guys later.